Alright guys, what is up? So, this is going to be a video that has been asked for quite a while. And I know some people have been waiting on it for a very, very long time. Because it's been a very, very long time since I've done one of these. And now with multiclassing, it's going to be even more needed for a lot of people. So, this will finally be my next fighter guide. This will be covering, I'm going to try to cover pretty much every single thing I can. All possible build paths, all possible armor choices, multiclassing, the best multiclassing options, some backup ones, all the perks you should take, and then, obviously some other options. I will try to cover the Slayer build that I think is really good. However, I don't have all the perks right now, but I can mention them. Same as I don't technically have all the things I want for my fighter. I literally just rerolled actually, and I spent 9 rolls to get anti-magic, and then my next 4 rolls, I pulled 3 out of the 4 rolls. I pulled the perfect thing, so my build actually ended up being okay. But just to start off as a front, Fighter is pretty good right now. Fighter is pretty damn good right now. Multiclassing has made Fighter significantly more viable in the meta. We are pretty much, or the reason Fighter has been bad for quite a while, especially in the Barbarian meta, was because Barbarian basically did everything Fighter did. However, they were just way tankier than you. Your class is supposed to be like, Fighter is supposed to be like the definitive tanky class. However, Barbs were just as, if not more tanky, and they had more damage. Now, they still have more damage, but Fighter has just as much tankiness, and they usually have more mobility. However, obviously I know Barbs can go sprint, but Fighters, just with the armor choices and things they have with their gear, it's a bit different. At this point, I'm not going to say Fighter is better than Barb. I do think Barb is still a bit better. However, it's no longer, if you see a Barbarian, you just roll over and die, because that's not the meta we're in. Fighter can actually compete against Barb. So to start off with, I'll go over gear after, just because as you see here, I have a ton of different things in my inventory. Start off with, I'm going to go over perk choices. I'm going to go over what I think is probably the best build, and then cover, some other acceptable options too. So, start off with, listen, let me say this as a disclaimer. Swift is not a necessary perk right now. If you can take Swift off and still be in the 93% plus range, I'd say I would try to look for about 95% before I take it off. But if you can take Swift off and still be at that range, it's probably worth it to drop. And the things you're going to want to run. So, Iron Will and Anti-Magic. Always run these. If you want to play Fighter and you want to be competitive and you want to win, always run these 2 perks 100% of the time. Never don't run them. Because the reason is, if you run these, you pretty much just get, with like the normal gear on. Obviously, I have a golden cape here, so it's not completely normal. But with like the normal set of gear on, you will almost always reach 65 to 75 per MDR just as a base. Just without going for really any MDR rolls. Like you can look and see here. I might have 1 or 2. I'm not even sure if I do. Yeah, I have 9 magic res here, and then I'm wearing a golden cape, so that's 2.5% magic damage reduction. And I'm at 44.9%. And if you guys don't know, this is how anti-magic works. This is I'm going to tell you, this is definitively the way it works. It doesn't reduce it as a separate source of damage. Anti-magic is just 25% magic damage reduction added onto your number. It does not overcap. It is not a second source of reduction. If you take magic damage, it does not reduce it by 25% and then get mitigated by your magic damage reduction. No. So what right now, how this would work is I would have 69.9% nice magic res. That is how anti-magic would work. And if it's against divine magic, then you just don't count that 25%. Against divine magic, I have 44.9%. That is how anti-magic works. So as you can see, I am 69.9%. We're just going to call it 70% magic res as a base. Then you can go for a shield that has magic res on it, but the better way is going magic damage reduction instead of magic res, because when you're that high, flat or percentages are better than flat numbers. But with you having this high of MDR, you can go for a shield that gives ideally armor rating and PDR. Like your best shield probably, assuming go for purple, is probably armor rating, PDR, MDR. If you have legendary, armor rating, PDR, MDR, and then health. But other than that, like I said, these 2 perks are pretty much non-negotiable. Like, yeah, if you're not multi-class into these, then obviously, if you're not multi-class into both or you don't get both, you can just run one. However, for me personally, let's say I re-roll my perks and I'm like, rolling. If I don't get both of these, I will re-roll. Like, I could make do without Robust or PFE or Protection from Evil is PFE, by the way, for anyone wondering. That's the Cleric perk that reduces debuff duration by 50% on you. So, like, I could live without Robust, PFE, Perseverance, any of those. However, Anti-Magic Iron Will, you cannot afford to not have. not having these will significantly harm you, because if you don't, what you're forced to do is you then have to swap out armor pieces to get more MR, because you want as much MR as possible. So like I said, these two non-negotiable perks. And then Swift is a very good option if your gear is like, like if you're not at this like 95% range without Swift, I would not take this. However, if you are, then the options you could put on are like, defense mastery, you can run robust, you can run perseverance, you can run protection from evil. Those are generally going to be your best options. Sword mastery is also up there if you're wearing an arming sword. However, generally this won't be the best one. The shield perks are pretty much lost in the dirt. No one's really running these anymore. There are better perks you can run, right? You can just get better defensive perks. But I think my ideal setup here would be Iron Will, Anti-Magic, Robust, and then probably Perseverance. I think if you want to go the full like tank setup, that's the best. If you want to be more of a backline diver, then putting Protection from Evil on over Perseverance is better, because the really, really big thing that Protection from Evil will give you benefit on is on hit slows. So if a weapon hits you, it slows you. If you have Protection from Evil on, the slow is very, very negligible. And then moving on to skills, you will always keep Sprint on. Sprint is your best friend in this meta. And then for your secondary skill, the options I think you have to run, Savage Roar is probably number one. Then if your teammate is running Savage Roar, you can run Warcry, or you can run Taunt, which is something I've been doing quite a bit. I think Taunt is actually really, really good, depending on your gear set. If you are getting around 65 PDR and 65 MDR, obviously after Perseverance, so if you're like 40% here, and then like whatever here, so you're like 65 here after, in-game buffs and everything, then you run Taunt. Taunt's giving you maximum value of 10% physical damage reduction and 10% magical damage reduction to bring you up to 75%. However, just off of pure physical damage alone, Savage Roar will be significantly better than Taunt will be. And like I said, if your teammate is running Savage Roar, you still can do it, because then what you can do is one of you pops it, and then when yours ends, the second one pops it. It's still very good. Or you run Warcry. If one of you uses Savage Roar, the other uses Warcry. It's double tank stats. However, I will say this, for some things. One particular reason Savage Roar is not super great, I think it's probably still your best option until everyone does this, but one particular thing that could make Savage Roar not as good or have lower value is if everyone runs Protection from Evil, Savage Roar as a base would be a 3-second debuff, and then, obviously account for will and everything like that, could lower it a bit more if they have it, but it'll just half the duration of it, so instead of it being a 6-second damage reduction, 3-second. But then you compare it to something like Taunt, this is 8 seconds of 10% physical damage reduction. And yes, 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but whenever you're going from 65% to 75%, that's a really, really big EHP jump. So that is one reason I think Taunt could be really good. However, you also have to consider Savage Roar helps your team, and it's not just you. Taunt is purely selfish. But yeah, like I said, those are generally your three options: Taunt, Savage Roar, Warcry, Second Wind isn't bad, but there are certainly better options in it right now. Warcry, let me make a comparison. Second Wind, yes, it recovers 40% of the health every 12 seconds. Warcry, what it does is it increases your maximum health by 25% for 7 seconds or something. I'm not sure the exact duration. And yes, whenever Warcry ends, you won't heal that amount. However, it is an instant effect versus Second Wind's, over time, right? For Second Wind to heal you for 25%, it takes, 6 seconds, 7 seconds or something into a fight. And that's, not mentioning maybe you get Fire Mastered or something, get Anti-Healed, Blow of Corruption, any of those things that could potentially hurt your healing. If you get Blow of Corruption or you get Fire Mastered, Second Wind is healing you for next to nothing. It's 20% over 12 seconds. That's very, very little. Or for some reason you run into like a Famine, literally zero healing, completely useless skill. Warcry, Savage Roar, Taunt always give you value at all points. Unless, you're fighting triple caster comp, then Savage Roar is useless, and then Taunt or Warcry would be better. But anyways, moving on. Yeah, like I said, that pretty much covers it for the perks and skills. So, I guess this is something else I can add in. So, for the things you want to multi-class into, the two biggest ones are going to be Barbarian and Warlock. Barbarian's number one. If you multi-class into just Barbarian, you can make a build out of this, because Barbarian does have your two best skills, and while it also has two of the best perks for you. So, like I said, let's say you don't have anti-magic, you can just run Defense Mastery here, right? Or you run Shield Mastery, or you can run Barricade or something else like that. So, and this is just from Barbarian. So if you just really don't want to play another character, then all you have to do is level Barbarian, then you roll for these, and it's much easier since you're only rolling for a few things rather than multiple. and you will be able to do that. But with that being said, I do recommend multiclassing into Cleric and Warlock. The other classes don't really hold much value. Rogue is mostly a meme build. Bard, Ranger, both meme builds. If you want to like Rapier Mastery or Spear Mastery or something like that. Like Rogue for Hide. Wizard, the only thing you would ever want from that is Ice Shield. However, I don't personally like Ice Shield that much. I don't think it's super valuable. I think you could get more value out of running a different perk, like having Ice Shield over Robust. Like, I would never want that. But moving on, I think now here's for the gear choices. So right now, I think the gear is very, very varied in the things you can run. As you can see, I have like a hodgepodge basically of all the different gear in my inventory. I pretty much have 3 different pieces for almost everything except chest pieces. And even then, technically speaking, there probably are 3 you could run if you run a heavy gambeson, but Start off with, so the build I'm running right now is one of the most generic builds in the meta in terms of armor. You could swap out heavy gauntlets for reinforced or for light gauntlets. These are just really, really good ones. That's why I'm wearing them. Chappelle is generally going to be seen as the best helmet because it gives you movement speed. And in the meta where pants no longer roll movement speed, you can only roll it on boots. Chappelle is going to be very, very necessary to get a lot of move speed. Like you can see with this kit, I'm still only 95%. And that's with 5 move speed boots, a Chappelle, legendary fox pendant, and a golden cape also giving me +1 all. Like I'm not wearing agi rings or anything, but to be fair, I could now that I have robust because I have way more HP. But with that being said, there is an argument to be made where maybe you can, I think Dark Plate's definitely the de facto best chest piece. There is an argument to be made where you can wear Fine Cuirass, and I have been trying desperately to make this work. However, the really, really big problem with this is, as I can show you, I'm at 44.9% MR. If I swap this on, I go to 27%. And I'm not really gaining that many other stats. I'm gaining a tiny bit of HP here. This does have Vig as a base, Vig strength. I'm gaining a tiny bit of HP and a tiny bit of action speed. But, in the movement speed, I'm losing some movement speed. This is 3 agi versus no agi here. And the PDR generally would be higher. However, this is a very tanky chest piece. This right here only has the 2%. This also has an extra 9 armor. But the really, really big problem is just that you just lose way too much MR, right? Because the sweet spot that you want to be at, you want to be about 40 to 45% if you're playing with a bard. 45% is really the number you want to be at, because then harmonic is going to push you up and you're going to be around 50%. If you're not playing with a bard, you're going to be 50% flat out. And like I said, even with this, I'm not there, and this is wearing like golden cape. So there is a certain time you could wear a Fine Cuirass, but to do this, you're really going to need MR rolls, and you're going to be needing to wear, either you're going to be needing to wearing like dashing boots and dark leather legs, or something of something else. And to do that, you're going to lose HP other places. So overall, it's just not really worth it, I don't think. Unless you have like a really, really good kit for it. Because you could also obviously take a Fine Cuirass and roll MR on it, and then it's better, right? Moving on to the gauntlets. So I think heavy gauntlets are very good if you can get good stats in them. As you guys can see, these heavy gauntlets are abso-fucking-lutely insane. But, reinforced gloves are still very good, and so are light gauntlets if you get HP on these. Because, like I said, these do have, in a meta where you want more move speed, these do have 4 agi on them as a... Well, not 4 agi. They have 3 agi on them as a base. It'll be 3 agi, 3 strength at purple, which is generally what you're going to wear. So that's just, that's a roll you don't need. However, on gauntlets, ideally, you would want to roll 3 agi, because that's like the best roll. Now that movement speed is nerfed, getting agi on your pieces is one of the best possible things you can do. But other than that, the rolls you want are similar to pretty much exactly what you see here, except instead of strength, you would want true damage. True damage is very, very good. The only reason I'm not really stacking true damage anywhere you see on my kit, there is damage, I think, on my rings. Yes, there's like 1 true here, like 1 add here, and then nowhere else, is because I'm using a falchion, and whenever I'm running falchion, I don't really prio damage that high. However, going true damage and with an arming sword is probably one of the better builds right now. Like I said, I think falchion is still fine, and building damage while you're running falchion is still going to give you good returns, but arming sword's honestly just way more fun to use. So if you can use arming sword, I would recommend running that. But with that being said, do not run arming sword if you don't have decent damage, right? If you're not hitting for at least like 80, I would not recommend running arming sword in what I would consider a good kit, right? Because you're just not getting enough value out of it. You're not going to be damaging anyone. You're not going to be killing backliners, any of that things. If you're going for like just a full tank kit, yeah, it's probably fine. If you're not expecting to do damage, or you don't care about doing damage, yeah, you can still run it. Like, you guys, you're not going in expecting to do damage. You're not going to try to kill people and then fail and be like, oh my god, how did I not kill this guy? Because you know how. You went in knowing how you were going to do no damage. All right, onto the legs. Your options really are heavy leather legs or wolf hunters. These are the two best. There's like, maybe like plate isn't awful. I actually think if you can get good plate legs, they're pretty damn decent. However, the downside is obviously they only have there. It's a little bit more armor. Like I'm not like purple. This has 8 more armor, but it's another minus 1% move speed. It's minus because these are minus 12. This is minus 15. And then, yeah, you gain a bit of strength, but you do lose MR. Like, if I were to swap these on, you can see my stats would take a bit of a hit here. I would gain a tiny amount of PDR to lose a tiny amount of MR. And honestly, these aren't bad, but, like, just for comparison, these are 2 agi, these are only 1 agi, and it's still, like, it's still a move speed difference. Having heavy leathers with 3 agi max health is definitely the best thing you could do, and then going for armor rating roll as your last roll would probably be BIS, unless you really need that MR. But plate pants are certainly a consideration that you can run. However, like I said, unless they're really, really good, probably not going to use them. Oh yeah, also just to mention, I kind of forgot that that I see them here. Golden gear is actually really good, and I should mention this for the chest piece here. I said fine cuirass isn't that good. However, if you have a golden cuirass, on the other hand, the golden plate doesn't have minus MR and it actually gives you magic damage reduction. This is pretty big. So if I were to show you, like, my MMR is 44.9, instead of being all the way down to minus 27.4, I would be up to, 1.5, so 30.9. I'm sorry, I can't do math. So that's less MR. So golden plate is a bit better. The exact same with like golden gauntlets or golden plate legs. However, those aren't as apparent because they don't have as much minus MR. You see the plate pants are only minus 5, where the gauntlets are only aren't they 5 as well? Like, if you can get them golden, ideally that's the best, but if not, you can still run the pieces as is. Then, moving on to the boots, I think your 3 best options are rugged boots, buckled boots, and lace turn shoes. Lace turn shoes because they have that agi base, which is just pretty much 5 move speed. If you don't know, 1 agi equals 1 move speed. Then you can, so pretty much, base purple lace turn shoes are the equivalent of having rugged boots with 5 move speed. But then you see these do have 5 VIG, so you have to make up that HP somewhere else. Like, as you can see here, I have HP all over these. So if you get rugged boots with move speed and then max health, generally it's going to be better. However, turn shoes that then roll 5 move speed are even better. Turn shoes with 5 move speed are the equivalent of having some other boots that have, 10 move speed. Like double, so like 5 additional, 1.5%. So it's kind of like, min-maxy depending on the gear you get or depending on which one you have better of. But these are your options. Buckled boots are kind of like, I'm just going to call it what they are. Buckled boots are a poor man's rugged boots, right? They are not nearly as expensive as rugged boots because they do give a tiny bit less HP and a tiny bit less armor. However, they are going to be significantly cheaper on the market to find the rolls you want, and that's generally why I have ran them a lot. And, you're saying like, oh, like, poor bands, like, but you're running them, like, you guys get what I mean, right? Like, these are definitely your way cheaper options. You can buy some boots, like these right here, for example. I think I bought these boots for like 400 gold. If I wanted to buy these on ruggeds, obviously they wouldn't have VIG. They'd have like, like 2 max HP or something. It would be at least 1 to 2,000 gold probably. Maybe more, maybe less. Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't even think I've seen rugged boots with these stats. So, and then moving on, because I actually kind of forgot to talk about the helmets. So the other helmet options, you actually have all of these. Sallet, Crusader Helm, and Hound Skull are all very, very good. I think Sallet is probably your best mid-ground in between move speed and HP, because Sallet does have very, very good base stats and armor rating and move speed penalty. It's only -7, while at the purple rating, it gives 3 strength, 3 VIG, which is very, very good. And then as you can see here, if I were to equip it, I wouldn't actually lose that much move speed. It's only about 1.7. Ooh, yeah, nope, yeah, 1.7% for 6 HP, right? Like, that's pretty good. However, the big downside to Sallet, as opposed to a Chappelle does give MR, and losing out the MR, like, as you can see, I do go from, just this, just this 10 MR does take me all the way down from 44.9 to 41.9. That is 3% on its own. And like I said, if you're trying to build to have more MR, that is a bit of a drop-off that you don't really want to pay. Crusader Helm. Crusader Helm is more of the offensive option because it doesn't give health, but it does give dexterity and agility. So effectively, at purple, it's going to have a very similar move speed to the Sallet, while it's going to 1 more or 1 less move speed, because you see it's 3 agi, or yeah, 3 agi, 3 minus 11, or 11 minus 3, 8, 8, 7, boom, there's the math. But like I said, it does give you dex, and it's a bit tankier, so if you're looking for more action speed, looking for more PDR, the Crusader helm isn't a bad choice. However, you do need health on it because it doesn't have health as a base. Well, you don't need it, but you definitely want it. And let me just say, like, if you're not running robust, for example, like, let me show you guys. If you're not running robust, the HP that you have to play with is way, way less. Like, this is only 168 HP. For me, personally, I would like more than this. Although, I mean, obviously, you know, if you're running a not super expensive kit, you're going to have less HP. But if you have a robust on, that's way more HP you can play with, dropping. And then lastly, the tankiest option, as always, will be the Hound Skull. But however, Hound Skull is very, very slow, and it does have minus MR on it. So if you do run this, as you see, it does drop off MR, and it does make me much, much slower. I don't really recommend Hound Skulls right now, unless, like I mentioned before, you're going for a super tanky kit. If you're doing that, you know, it's fine. Run whatever you want. But if you're not, then it's a bit harder to really run it if you care about the move speed at all. Also, I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to get these slots right here, and I just cannot do it for the life of me. Honestly, I'll do that after the video, whatever. But those pretty much are the helmets. Actually, I mean, I guess I have Armet here, but I don't think this Armet's very good. I was kind of just trying out some Fizz Power stuff. Haven't tried the kit yet. But as you see, this Armet is really, really good, and it was really cheap. So it's not even bad. This is a pretty good offensive set, too, if you buy an expensive or if you buy a really good one for really cheap. But like I said, I haven't really tried this that much, so it's not really worth talking about. Then for the weapon choices, you have Falchion and you have Arming Sword. Not really much to talk about here. The exact same things I can say about them. There's things you've always said. Arming Sword is, you know, the faster, generally more offensive playstyle option. You know, fast swings, fast blocks, you know, diving the backline, weaving in and out, that type of thing. However, like I've mentioned, to run Arming Sword, you are going to want additional damage, or specifically true damage. True damage is much better because it cuts through people's PDR, and all these people running Savage Roar and stuff, that doesn't reduce your true damage, right? So true damage is really, really good with Arming Sword. It's good with Falchion too, but specifically Arming Sword, you want true damage on. Other than that, cape options. As you see, most of my kits here have Vigilant Cloaks, but the Golden Cloak is a very good option too. I think the Golden Cloak is better than just a normal blue Vigilant Cloak because this does roll 1 all, so it's literally 1 Vig difference. Like, as you see, like, you know, if I were to swap this one on, then the HP is literally, yeah, it's the same HP, right? This, I mean, yeah, this does have an HP roll on it, however, not really much of a difference. And then if you look at the PDR and MR, the thing about the Golden Cloak is it has a really, really high armor rating and really good magic defense. And in a meta where you want to stack resistances, it is very, very good. I actually don't see a lot of people running these, so you could probably get some of them pretty cheap. But, you know, they're always going to... I say cheap relatively, right? Like, you know, if you were going to look at them, Golden Cloak, they're still going to be probably like 1,000 gold or something plus. Oh, wow, they're actually way cheaper than I thought they were. But just because, like, the price of crafting them is a bit more expensive. Wait, what? Oh, and it's gold powder. The price of crafting them is kind of expensive because, you know, you need gold powder to do it. And it's actually kind of crazy how cheap they are. But maybe after this video, the prices will go up. That's how they normally do. And for the rolls, you want pretty much across your gear, max health, armor rating, PDR, damage on everywhere you can get it. So like rings, pendant, cloak, gloves, you would ideally like to have additional damage. And then every other piece that can roll agi, so pretty much every piece, you would ideally like to get agi. However, if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Everybody is slower because of the movement speed nerfs, not just you. So before, you know, fighters needed to be like 100% move speed. Really not the case anymore. You don't have to be that fast. Also, a lot of the fights nowadays are more frontline fights where it's like fighter on barb, that type of thing. It's not really fighter trying to chase down triple DPS. That's not really the case anymore because of how good frontliners are. And other than, you know, Golden Cloak and Vigilant Cloak, the Adventurer Cloak is also an option if you have a really good one, like this one right here, for example. Tattered Cloak, not really that great. I kind of just have these, haven't gotten rid of them. Not really the best. Other than that, oh yeah, I guess ring choices and jewelry choices. So as you see here, I'm wearing 2 Legendary Vitality rings. This was before I had Robust, so this is not going to be super precise. Grim Smiles are very, very good options, and I will probably be putting Grim Smiles on this kit right after this. Let's see, if I were to take these off, I lose, you know, I lose a ton of HP. However, if I put Grim Smiles on, I can gain a ton of that back. And then Grim Smiles will give you a ton more of his power bonus. Like, let's see if I just have another decent one around here somewhere. Like, you know, I put these on. My Fizz power bonus goes up to 13%. I'm still at 178 HP, and I still have a ton of resistances, right? And then Agi Pendant is just here because I wanted move speed on the kit I was running, and this was really, really cheap. I bought this for like 1,000 gold, which is crazy. But other than that, like I said, oh, wait, for necklaces, I guess I'll talk about everything you could possibly run. Bear pendants are runnable. Necklace of pieces are generally still your best option. Agi pendants are good. Ox pendants are decent if you get a really good one, but probably not preferred. And then for rings, your options, as always, are going to be you have Grim Smiles and you Vitality rings are the two, the top two. Then you have things like Agi rings, and outside of this, I would not really branch out. If you get a really crazy finesse ring, so dexterity, you could do it, but probably not. And courage rings are just bad Grim Smiles, right? Like they're just significantly worse Grim Smiles. If you're building a budget kit, maybe they're decent, but this guide is more trying to talk about like the high end of builds. Alright, but with that being said, guys, I think I am going to wrap up the video there. I'm not sure if there's anything I missed. As always, run crossbow in your offhand. I don't want to forget that, just in case I do, but I shouldn't. That should be very obvious, right? But yeah, I think that sums it up for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you guys next time. And as always, if there's any questions or anything, feel free to leave them down below, and I will try my best to answer them. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.